This is WBC. I'm sure you don't hear it too well, but you know what? I finally apologized to this man, and I told him I was going to do it, and we're going to have a scotch, and he's going to pour it, and he's going to talk, but I don't know if I'm going to film it. We're going to see, because things might get ugly. All right.
Hi, I'm Mark Herman, and you're watching No Enemies Here, Wargaming News.
And that's beautiful.
I also brought a few rule books for the designers to sign. Hey, look at that. I'm hurting.
You got 29, 23. 1747.
Yep.
3155.
High-flying dice games and Thunder Upon the Water Battle of Albemarle Sound, May 5th, 1864. And what you got with this game is one 11 by 17 inch map, 17 3/4 single-sided counters, 115 half-inch markers, a rule book, and a player book. This game is designed by Paul Rohrbaugh, published by High Flying Dice Games.
Basically, it's exciting to be able to put all these stuff on the table. It's not just the base game has two narrative. This is a very specific but part of it is
Enough of those games. New directions in gaming. Fortress Europa, Designer's Signature Edition. Marks the return of a true wargaming classic by John Edwards, faithfully remastered and updated with this all-new, supersized edition. Complexity 6 out of 10, solitaire shootability 7 out of 10, the time scale is 1 week per turn, the map scale 25 miles per hex, unit scale, divisions, brigades, regiments, and battalions. This is a 1 to 2 player game, best with 2, playing time 2 to 4 hours for a scenario, 8+ hours for a campaign. This is a game designed by John Edwards, developed by Randy Heller, published by Compass Games. And what you get with this game, amongst other things, are 2 maps, 43 by 34 inch, 3 counter sheets, a rule book, player aids, 2 6-sided die, and a box and a lid.
Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and sign through transport from here. Okay, let's go.
Battle Publishing and Donetsk Battle for the Airport. This is a rebagging of the game originally found in Flying Pig Games' Yeah magazine number 9. Donetsk is a squad-level tactical game that simulates the battle for Donetsk Airport in the Ukraine 2014 to 2015. And what you got with this game are 88 die-cut counters, 11 by 17 inch map, player aid cards, rule book, and a bag to bag it in. This is a game designed by Ryan Kirk, the art is by Ilya Kudryashov. Hallenspiele and the Siege of Ismail. This is a game designed and the artwork is by Ilya Kudryashov. The duration is 120 minutes, it's a 2-player game, solitaire suitability is high. And what Hallenspiele has written about this game is that it was created for the 2018 Board Game Geek Wargame Print and Play contest. Siege of Ismail decisively swept the awards, including Best Game, Best Artwork, and Best New Designer. And what you get with this game is a 22 by 17 inch map sheet, 176 counters, an 8-page rulebook, and one 6-sided die.
You know, does it get better than this? Does it get better than this? Does it get better than this?
Content World, a few years back, who was
You know, it doesn't get better than that.
he was questioning
Doesn't get
stuff
better
in
than that.
Hell's Highway.
A game for gamers, made by gamers, by Flying Pig Games.
Tiny Battle Publishing and Okinawa. Okinawa is a 2-player game recreating the land, sea, and air struggle for the possession of the Japanese island of Okinawa from April to June 1945. Game designed by Arrigo Velikonga. And what you get with this game is 176 counters, a 22 by 17 inch map, a rule book, player aid cards, a non-military issue Ziploc bag to billet your troops, and you need to requisition 2d6 from your divisional quartermaster. Legion War Games, your chance to change history. The Berlin Airlift, the 24th of June 1948 to the 12th of May 1949, a game designed by John Paniski. And what you get with this game is a 22 by 34 inch map, 120 wooden counters, 176 cardboard counters, 125 square cubes, a 16-page rulebook, player aids, and 4 scenarios including a campaign game. The unit size are multiple aircrafts. Time scale is 2 weeks per turn. This is a 1 to 4 player game. Complexity is medium. Solitaire suitability is high. And this is on a side note. This is discrimination number 1 against me personally. Now, if you look at the door, obviously there's the instructions, but then there's that little thing over there. You know, that's the little thing. Like, I'm standing up and that's the keyhole. Now, how is this possible? How is this possible? Someone knocks on the door? I open the door, I get shot. I'm dead. Goodbye. Grant and Alexander of the Player's Aid are unboxing Worthington Publishing's Siege of Quebec 1759, designed by the Wiley family. Alexander interviews Ben Hall of Fields of Fire fame with his Bulge expansion, 1944. Grant interviews Keith Tracton, World at War 85 from Lock and Load at WBC 2019. Also, the gentlemen of the Player's Aid are debriefing WBC 2019 in their hotel room. The Player's Aid and yours truly at the WBC Acme Arm Wrestling Championship 2019, presented by the Player's Aid. You know, I just came back from WBC and I hung around with Grant and Alexander. Super nice guys. But let me tell you something. These guys are nuts. They work like crazy. I mean, they're interviewing people, running around, setting up, tearing down, you know, and saying they work like crazy. Well, here's another video of these guys.
There's a second issue based on the novel, but since he used real world places, we were able to just segue in where he did his things, he used his actual place names. Turns out, there it is. Yeah. We made maps from that has 3 more maps. So I think I lost track. 8 and
Player's Aid are unboxing MMP's Front Toward Enemy, a game designed by Joe Chacon.
okay.
Okay, so next card. Red Leos.
Are you doing audio too? You're gonna do the audio over.
No, I'm going to do the audio over.
So you see that big fire?
Yeah.
Okay, that's been getting bigger. It doesn't really affect anything other than if it burned through to those bridges might collapse.
I see.
So
And what? There's a roll to see which way the wind blows.
There is no. I don't have a wind rule because it's just too much. But there is weather. If, yeah, there you go. If the weather gets severe enough, it can put those fires out.
Okay.
Rain.
Okay, I'm not gonna do anything. Not gonna do anything. End the turn.
You want to know what's happening on Big Board? I'll tell you what's happening on Big Board. Kevin, CEO Big Man of the Big Board, is wrapping up less than 60 miles and also has a live chat where Compass Games is discussed, a mystery boxes, and farewell to Richard Berg.
One of the names on there, you know, 30 HEXES in class or something, 24. There was enough of them to put names on there. The Japanese actually ordered 22 modular classes, but of course.
The man with no frills, no bells, and no whistles, Tim Korchnoi of Bare Bones Wargaming, gives us some thoughts and musing and observations, and also ramblings about his latest project.
Hey guys, Dave here. Welcome to the Centurions review, the punk rock band of war game review institutions. The first game we will be reviewing on our website this week is Vampire from TSR. It's an early 1980s game that's based on the Bram Stoker book. Essentially, you're one of the characters in the book and you're out to kill Count Dracula. On the way, you have all sorts of encounters where you have to fight monsters or you have to fight animals. And you can find different items that can assist you in your final battle with Count Dracula. Looks like an interesting game. The first game we'll be doing a first look at on our YouTube channel is War on the Ice from SPI. It's an old game from the late 1970s where the United States, Russia, and the South American Union are at war in Antarctica. Most of it plays kind of like a historical game, even though it's a what-if, but it does have one scenario where you're fighting subterranean aliens, so that's kind of a neat twist. I think you guys will get a real kick out of it. Next game we'll be doing a first look at on our YouTube channel is Extractors from Ares Magazine number 4. Essentially, it's a science fiction game where you have semi-autonomous robots that you've been able to send through the universe at faster than light speed since they're non-organic material. And you've sent them to a planet in which you want to take over to get its natural resources. Looks like kind of an interesting game, kind of thing you'd only see in a Ares magazine. Anyhow, look forward to seeing you guys on our YouTube channel and on our website. Have a good evening.
Riccardo Masini, in his vlog 31, Sul Tavolo, on the table, he takes a look at 1759, Siege of Quebec, a game designed by Grant Wiley. And famously known as Calandale, Enrico Viglino wraps up Salerno, the 1943 Allied invasion of Italy, and also takes a look at Vietnam 1965 to 1973, an old victory games game, and takes a look at Ted Racier's game, The First World War. STUKAJOE has a video preview of Normandy, The Beginning of the End by Draco Ideas, designed by Juan Carlos Cebrian and Nicholas Escabi. Little Wars TV has an interview with Lindy Beige. And also the Little War TV guys are giving away a massive load of stuff. Kyle Seeley takes a look at SPQR, a game designed by Richard Berg and Mark Herman, published by GMT, and also some thoughts on the passing of Richard Berg. AJ Toynbee of Hexes and Soldiers, Jason Cruz, is doing a pocket Command and Colors Napoleonics. Jan Heinemann is continuing his Field of Glory, Klein Guten Generalis Weit und Breit. I don't know if I said that right, but he's continuing it.
So I'm 2-1 and you're 1-2. Sound reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. Put these guys back in there.
Okay, so I'm looking for this squad that
He ran over there.
MARCOWARGAMER Arnaldo is reviewing the American Civil War by Worthington Publishing Games. The Gimpy Gamer is continuing his review through of Fields of Fire 2, Part 5. A game designed by Ben Hull and published by GMT. And Gimpy also does a review through of Star Wars Outer Rim, Parts 1 and 2, as of this taping. Rob Orrin, the strong man of war games, is taking a look at Dream Team designer Herman Luttman's Invaders from Dimension X.
And but the Luftwaffe at the time had 12,000 aircraft, so they were ready to put them all in there and have the submarines all committed to the invasion, the whole works. So I thought again a daring plan that actually had a chance. And by a month later, after France had been mopped up, Britain had been actively working on defense in the meantime.
Oh! Of Mo's Game Table has a couple of unboxings, the first one being Space Empires 4X, the expansion Close Encounters, a game designed by Jim Crone, published by GMT, and also a Dark Sands giveaway, and an unboxing of Tinian, the Forgotten Battle from Compass Games. Mo also gives you a review of John Gorkowski's The Lost Provinces, a game published by Hollenspiel. Mo is also previewing a Strategy and Tactics, an old magazine, with a game called Winged Horse, Vietnam 1965. Thursday Night Gamers, an introduction to Operational Studies Group ambitious series of Napoleonic war games, a video. Compass Games, and the new face at Compass Games, Julian Thomas is unboxing Fortress Europa, the Designer Signature Edition. Also, Julian does another video unboxing A Pragmatic War, the War of the Austrian Succession, 1741 to 1748.
Hey Dan, and no enemies here, faithful. It's David Thompson coming back to talk about Undaunted Normandy once again. So, quick recap, talking about a game that I co-designed with Trevor Benjamin. This game's being published by Osprey. It's releasing at Gen Con 2019. I guess it matters when you're watching this video. If you're watching this before Gen Con and you happen to be going there, I'll be at the Osprey booth running demos of the game, but if you're a wargamer and you're going to be there Thursday, there is a wargame meetup called Insurgency. It's being run by the Players Aid guys as well as Harold Buchanan. I'm going to be there all day. I'll have this game with me. I'll be playing. So if you happen to be there, track me down. Let's play a game of Undaunted. So Dan had me on previously to talk about just sort of some background information about the game. I wanted to briefly, very, very briefly, talk about just some of the gameplay mechanisms. This is not a how to play video. There's a couple of those posted already, so that are way better than anything I can do. Just Google it, you'll find them. But I did want to just talk briefly about some of the game mechanisms. So, like I talked about before, this is a deck builder game, squad level. You take the role of platoon leader, you're sending out your squads. you're able to control 3 different squads, some sniper, and a mortar that are attached to the platoon. Almost all elements of the platoon are modeled. There's a couple of very small elements like the assistant squad leader is not, for example, and platoon messenger is very minor. But for the most part, you're going to be controlling all the elements of the platoon. So how does the game work? It's a deck builder. You're going to be drawing cards. You're going to be playing those cards to command your different elements of the platoon that are on the board here. You're going to be moving out, trying to capture objectives, trying to kill the enemy. Okay, that's what you're trying to do. Mechanically, the way it works is you have a starting deck. That starting deck is defined by the scenario. You have a supply, so additional cards you can recruit into your starting deck from the platoon. And then there are going to be some cards that in almost every scenario will be left out. Okay, that may mean you don't have access to a squad, you don't have access to a mortar, whatever it is. In that regard, every scenario is going to be asymmetric. You're going to be going for different objectives. Your deck is going to be different than your opponent's. Okay, once you've got your deck and you start playing, you're going to draw 4 cards. You're going to use one of those cards as your initiative. So each player will play an initiative card. That's going to determine who goes first. And then if you, on your turn, whether you're first or second, you're going to play all 3 of your cards that you have remaining. Those 3 cards are going to dictate the action on the board. If it's a command card, so if it's the platoon sergeant, the platoon guide, or squad leaders, they're abstracted. They're not actually physically represented on the board. Those are the command elements. They're going to do things like bolstering the platoon or the squad, guiding them, things that are command and control related, to include some potential fog of war actions. If it's a combat card, which means it's an actual element of the squad, then it's represented on the actual board here. Okay, so that means riflemen, scouts, machine gunners, the platoon, the mortar. So that's the difference in the type of cards. Regardless, you're going to be playing that card down to take an action with it. So I'm going to talk briefly about each of those kind of cards, what you're doing with them, just to give you a sense of how the game would play. So at the most fundamental, most basic level, you have your riflemen. Okay, they form the core of each squad, and ultimately they form the core of the platoon. The riflemen can move on the board. Okay, so you can move from a position that you're already in to another scouted position, and I'll come back to what it means to be scouted in a little bit. But they can move one space. You'll note, just a total aside here, the board is configured with these modular double-sided tiles, and they're configured in an offset configuration. So what is the advantage of offset? If you look at it, if you've never seen a system that uses offset squares before, you effectively get the benefit of a hex layout without using hexes, right? So you kind of get the best of both worlds, squares and hexes. So we have this modular layout. If you move a rifleman, you can move them. You can attack with them. So attacking is extremely simple in this game. You count the number of spaces you are away from the enemy. So if this rifleman's targeting a rifleman in an adjacent space, it's 1 space away. You look at the inherent defense of that space. So this rifleman's hiding in heavy woods, has a 3 defense. So that's 4. And then you add the counter's inherent defense. And in this case, the rifleman has a 4 by himself. So he has a total defense of 8. The rifleman here has an attack value of 1, so you're going to roll one die, and you're going to try to get 8 or higher. It's that simple. If you're a machine gunner, obviously you're going to have a better chance to hit. And we'll talk about machine gunners' special things later on. The game really, you can attack. Sometimes attacking is important. Oftentimes you're trying to go for an objective that's not just attacking. Okay, but the rifleman can attack, and he can control. Controlling is the key to the game. Only the rifleman can do it. And what does that mean? Oftentimes you're trying to go to an objective and control it. That means you need to be on the space. It needs to be an objective space that's worth victory points usually, and your opponent cannot also be on it. If they're not on it, you can take a rifleman, you can control it. Now you've controlled that location, you've got victory points. If your enemy removes you from that space, if you move from it, or if they remove your counter, they can come onto the space and re-control it. Okay, let's talk about the scout. So the scout is really the key to get the engine moving here for your platoon. You cannot move this rifleman into the space until it's scouted first. So the way that works is a scout can move up to 2 spaces. For every space that they move into that wasn't already scouted, they scout it. So they would put a little scouted token on it. But when they do that, they're extending their distance between them and the rest of their squad. Now they're scouting this new terrain, they're learning about it, but also we've got now a communication problem with the rest of the squad. So every time they move into a new terrain tile, they're going to add a Fog of War card to their deck. Fog of War card, as you can imagine, does nothing but clog up your deck. Okay, there's plenty of ways to get rid of this Fog of War card, but until you've spent time doing some reconnaissance, you're not actually going to have a chance to get rid of it. So you're going to need to move out with the scout to extend the range of the squad, and so you can follow up with your rifleman, but doing it comes at the expense of adding Fog of War to your deck. So what else can the scout do? Well, he can attack just like the rifleman. He can recon, I just mentioned that. When you have the scout in your hand, you can use him to recon. If you also have a Fog of War in your hand, you can get rid of it and draw a new card in its place. The last thing the scout can do is conceal. The conceal takes one of your opponent's Fog of War cards and puts it in their deck. So really you can think of the scout as moving out on the board and also doing a lot of deck manipulation, both in your favor or against your opponent. Okay, so let's talk about the machine gunner. Really a support element of the squad here, as you can imagine. So they can move just like a rifleman. It has to be a scouted space, they can move into it. They can attack just like the scout and rifleman, but they're rolling 2 dice instead of 1. Or they can suppress. When they suppress, the attack is the exact same as a normal attack, except they're rolling 4 dice. But if they're successful, it's not actually a hit. It doesn't result in a casualty. It just suppresses the counter, which means you flip it over. Now the next time that person acts, they can't take an action. They just have to take an action flipping themselves back over. So I think that's a good time to stop for a second and let's talk about the effects of actually attacking successfully. If you target an opponent's counter and you hit it, the opponent goes through their hand first. If they don't find the matching card in their hand, they'll go to their discard pile. If they don't find it there, they'll go into their deck. They'll find the card and they remove it from the game, okay? In the case of a rifleman, they've got 5 rifleman cards for every counter, up to that many if they've drafted them into their deck. 3 for each scout counter and 3 for each machine gunner. So you can see these guys aren't going to last long if they are taking sustained fire. The sniper, he can attack. He has an attack value of 3. That's the best in the game. He also has a special ability called Stalk. So what that means is he can move to any place on the board. He doesn't need to be scouted by the scout. So the sniper can go off on his own. He can't control an objective, obviously, but he can go off on his own and represent an attack threat against you. And then finally we have the mortar. So what the mortar does is first he targets a tile, so he takes an action to target it, and then he takes an action to attack it. But he's not just attacking like a normal attack where you attack a counter or a specific counter. He's attacking the entire tile. That includes your allies. So if you're desperate enough to use the mortar on a tile your guys are on, he's going to attack them too. So it takes a first action to set up with targeting, and then a second action to actually fire with the mortar. Those are all the combat cards. So let's talk about the command cards, the ones that are really kind of moving, manipulating the deck, really get into the command and control here. So the first is the platoon sergeant. So I said before, you take the role of the platoon leader, so there's no platoon leader card. But so the highest ranking card you'll have would be the platoon sergeant. He's got 2 actions. He can bolster 3, and so what that means is you've got your starting deck, you're playing with it, you want to add more cards to it. He can take any 3 cards and add those to it. I should say that this is a deck builder, but it's different than most. Most deck builders, you have a value on a card, and then you have costs of other cards, and you have to get to those costs. It doesn't work that way. The cards are not symmetrically powerful. They're situationally relevant. And what I mean by that is sometimes you're going to need riflemen, sometimes you're going to need scouts, sometimes you're going to need machine gunners. You use the platoon sergeant to get the guys you need when you need them. It also lets you do things like, I really need a mortar bad right now. I'm just going to take 3 mortar cards, get all 3 of them in my deck right now so that they're more likely to come up when I need them. The platoon sergeant can also command too. What that means is you just play him as an action and you draw 2 cards from the top of your deck and you get to use them. You have the platoon guide. He can bolster 1, which means he can just take any 1 card. He can also guide 1, which means he can give any guy on the board, he can give them a move action, okay? So they don't have to wait for their card to come up. And then lastly, we have the squad leaders. The squad leaders are very similar to the guide and the platoon sergeant in that they can bolster, but they can only bolster from their squad. So what you'll see is that we have all these counters. So we have rifleman counters, machine gunner counters. They're all tied to a squad, A, B, or C. So the squad leader for squad A can only bolster riflemen, scouts, and machine gunners from squad A. He also has an inspire ability. What that means is if you have both the squad leader in your hand and an element of his squad in your hand, let's say you play a rifleman A from A squad, then you can use the squad leader from A squad to give that rifleman another action. So you can combo actions in a single turn. That's pretty much it. I already talked about Fog of War. It just clogs up your deck. Those are all the different actions in the game. Again, what you're going to be doing is managing the elements of the 3 different squads, going out, capturing objectives, defeating your opponent, playing through the 30th Infantry Division's actions throughout Normandy, culminating with the historic Battle of Mortain. So hopefully that gave you a little taste of what playing the game's like, all the different type of cards. Again, as a reminder, I'll be at Gen Con. That's when the game's releasing. If you're going to be there, make sure to either come by the Osprey booth or look for me on the first day of Gen Con at the Insurgency Wargame Meetup in the open gaming area. So I really appreciate taking the time, and thanks for having me on, Dan.
Discrimination number 2. The desk and the chair. It's at armpit level. How am I supposed to write? It's at armpit level. What am I supposed to do? Well, my first evening at WBC was pretty memorable, as you can tell by those 2 glasses and that half-finished bottle of scotch. I sat down with Mark Herman and John Butterfield playing a game together, and well, today the game starts off with a few of these little pills. Maybe I'll feel better. Salute. I scored this little thing here yesterday. Huh? Now that's a score.
Harold Buchanan was kind enough to send me some pictures. He's at Gen Con with the Insurgency Group. A con within a con. So thank you, Harold. And guys, a little bit more pictures. Doesn't hurt anybody. Games, Old School Tactical Volume 3, The Pacific Theater. The game includes 4 sheets of unit, weapon, vehicle, and condition counters, a large 30 by 41 inch mounted game map, 18 luck cards, 16 scenarios, player aid cards, color rulebook, of course dice, and a massive box and a lid. Avalon Digital and Blocks, Richard III, Block Wargaming on your PC and Mac. Richard III is a computer adaptation of the epic 2-player war game from Columbia Games that recreates the 15th century bloody dynastic struggle between the royal houses of Lancaster and York for the throne of England. They also have a demo that you can play. Check them out. Worthington Publishing, Stalingrad Besieged. This is a game designed by Dr. Lou Pulsifer. Stalingrad Besieged is a game that allows 1 to 2 players to refight the campaign for Stalingrad in 1942 in 3 different ways: cards, blocks, or counters. The game plays in less than an hour. And what you get with this game is a mounted game board, a deck of option cards, a full set of Russian unit large wooden blocks with labels, Russian unit cards, Russian unit oversized counters, German unit large wooden blocks with labels, and you know the drill, plus status cubes, dice, 2-player aids, and a rulebook. Academy Games and One Small Step lead the US and Soviet space agencies in their epic race to the moon in this engine-building, worker placement Eurogame. But Uwe, I spoke to Uwe, and he tells me that there are war game elements. It's the Cold War, man. You know what I'm saying? The Twilight Struggle, you know what I'm trying to say? Okay, so he guarantees me that if one side is losing, that you pick up the miniature satellites that are going to be there and you throw it at the other guy's head. Can't get more war game than that. And what you get with this game is a lot of stuff. I suggest you go on the Kickstarter website and check it out. And you're going to see something that resembles meeples. They're not meeples. Uwe guaranteed me that they're not meeples. They're astronomicals. Astronomicals. That's what he said. And you know what? I believe Uwe. He's German. Germans don't lie. Matt White's Until the Bitter End, US Airborne. This is a print and play Kickstarter. It's a second World War II solitaire and 2-player game that Matt does print and play. The game sets a small squad of American airborne against a German enemy in a series of small skirmish scenarios. Can anybody say narrative? The game comes with 10 US airborne infantry and 10 German infantry counters, 2 maps, and a full rulebook. Scenario book, plus all the stretch goals in this project. Compass Games and Once We Moved Like the Wind. The information on Once We Moved Like the Wind is complexity 3 out of 10, solitaire suitability 5 out of 10, the time scale 3 to 4 years per turn, and the map scale area covering parts of Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Sonora, and Chihuahua. Unit scale, a wooden block represents an army troop or Apache warband. This is a 2-player game, playing time 1 to 2 hours. And what you get with this game is a mounted map, 22 by 23 inches, 22 by 23 inches, a 16-page color rulebook, a sheet of stickers for the blocks, 80 wooden blocks to stick your stickers on, 4-player mats, 2 6-sided die, and a proprietary compass, box, and a lid.
Splendor, Splendor would have been the one I'd played before we went.
Interviews the Polish war game designer Wojciech Zaleski, also on his Gianni Zero podcast, Saluti e buon vacanze. That means goodbye and happy vacations, or have a good vacation. Yeah. Plus, podcast videos, war game under the umbrella.
I would lose. You can't say I'm green. And then
okay, you're done. You had to hold it.
So, did James move since I gone?
Oh yeah, many things have happened since you've been gone. Okay. But
5 or 6 summers.
So I think the way I want to do this is
I go here first to flip that one. That then I have to Well, first we're going to do this battle first. So that's the first one.
How many guys? 6 guys?
I got 6 guys.
That's automatic 1-1.
Yeah, it's 1-1. All right, but I just wanted to, do it. So that's 1.
I thought yesterday was your birthday. What are you doing in open games today?
No, that's a Malin.
Another week, another show. I just got back from WBC. I had a blast. And the generosity of David Heath and family. Thank you very much, David Heath, Lock and Load Publishing. I met a lot of great people there. And you know how everybody says, I met a lot of great people. And yeah, right. No, I met a lot of great people. These gamers at WBC, they were fantastic. At least the people I met. So, thank you for watching. Support my channel. Like and subscribe, as they say. And at $1.25 a show per week, that's $5 a month. That's not a bad deal. Thank you very much, and I'll be bringing more WBC pictures and films as the weeks go on. Ciao.
It's not just the base game has two narrative. This is a very specific but part of it is there's a very
enough of those